Hello again, David Moore, Equity Advantage, 1031exchange.com with Robert Smith of Peregrine Private Capital. And we just left you a few minutes ago talking about the balloon with a hole in it. So would you like to elaborate on that?
Once again, Mr. Moore, great turn of phrase, balloon with a hole in it. I like that. We had a client ask, we've talked about asset bubbles. Are still in an asset bubble. That asset bubble is deflating. Whenever you start raising interest rates, asset values usually go down because your potential buyer pool gets smaller, and so there is a less aggressive bidding from pricing standpoint, and money gets more expensive. So the first thing that rolls over and dies is the bond market because it's simply the most liquid market on planet Earth. Next thing that rolls over is the stock market, and there's always a lag before it ripples out to real estate because of the inherently illiquid nature of real estate. That being said, unlike 2008, 2009, real estate isn't the leading edge of overvaluation because mortgage lending was radically revamped with the Dodd-Frank Act in the aftermath of that credit market meltdown. Now it's clearly overvaluation of all of these companies, ideas that lose money. And I think you're already seeing that in the collapse of the cryptocurrency markets, where clearly billions of dollars are being lost. The collapse in price of all those technology companies that place growth in front of everything else. Layoffs, hundreds of thousands of people being laid off. So I think you're already seeing that air coming out of the bubble from a valuation standpoint. And so we're transitioning into a new, tighter money world, which will likely define or identify different asset types of preference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the lack of liquidity of the real estate, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's you put something on the market, you got to wait for somebody to buy it, or you're going to negotiate the purchase, but it gives you the stability. And I guess one of the things, and we've talked about before, that drives me crazy about any time we're talking about tangible assets, it's every tangible asset. The oldest known investments to mankind are all pretty much tangible assets, and yet they're considered what in the investment world?
Archaic, right?
No, archaic, but alternative, right? And alternative, it just makes it sound, to me, less than, right? I mean,
less than, otherworldly.
Yeah, they're hard assets. I mean, they're there. A piece of unencumbered real estate cannot go away, other than if you just cease to pay property taxes on it. And even that, it's going to take you a long time before anyone takes it from you. So you're going to have things that go up or down in value. We've talked about it before. I've got a good buddy. I'm just going to use his first name, Mike. That's in the Wall Street world. And I was at a marketing meeting, business meeting one morning, and he was giving a presentation on Wall Street and everything there, and he brought up like, well, hey, if you'd bought Coca-Cola in the 40s, it would be worth this today. And it's like, buy and hold this stuff. And it's like, da-da-da. I said, okay, Mike, well, you gave me the one example of the company that's still there, but how many of the companies you could have bought in 1940 are even in existence today? And back to my comment on the hard assets, that real estate unencumbered can't really go away, short of just total neglect of that thing. So, if you own a rental house or something like that, you don't take care of it, you're going to have an erosion in value. But if we look at a lot of places, as you know, I spent a lot of time back and forth to San Diego, and we're talking to you from Portland, Oregon today. But in San Diego, I drive around and you look at the real estate in, for example, your home. It's pretty new, right? I mean, you built it. If I look at where I live, I've got new homes all around me. Houses on both sides of me are being rebuilt. But if I go and look at these houses in Southern California, they're all these old little houses. And I think the reason for that is people can't afford to. It's not a question of their ability to improve them. It's just you improve them, and the consequence tax-wise, property tax-wise, and everything else for that change it's just
crippling.
So things just start eroding, and then you start putting rent control in place, and you've destroyed the property owner's rights of ownership to anything. And so where do they end up going? And I think in today's world right now, if you look at a lot of our clients, and I know one, for example, that we talked about, and we both worked with a couple months ago, a good buddy of mine, and he wasn't concerned, smart guy, business guy, very successful. And when we were talking to him about investments, what was his comment? He wasn't concerned about huge yield on an investment right now. He was concerned with what?
Stability of principle.
Preservation of capital, right? Yeah. And so if you start looking at things, I've got, unfortunately, you people that have watched our videos, you've heard me talk about him before. A great buddy that unfortunately we lost last year, and his comments: real estate's not a get rich quick scheme, get rich slowly but surely scheme with one magic rule: do not sell or be forced to sell in a recession. So, if you look at things right now and people that are moving stuff, I think the buyers have sort of come to grips with the new world. The sellers haven't quite yet. We're seeing a change there, but there's lots of movement. But people, ownership of things, whether it's a small business or property or whatever, the owners in this space are losing their rights and control, and they're looking for other places to go. And your DST offerings, your UPREIT offerings, those things are great, I think, solutions for those people going forward.
We talked about that or revisited that in our blog, DSTs, and the continuing blue state out-migration. I mean, this has obviously been going on for quite some time prior to Donald Trump, prior to COVID-19, prior to the pandemic. People, money, and business have been leaving high tax, high regulatory threshold blue states and going to no tax, low tax red states. Obviously, the Trump SALT provision in Tax Act accelerated that, and then when the pandemic came along, blue states locked down first and stayed locked down longest and were most draconian in their application of anti-business regulations. And so that simply accelerated that movement of people, money, and business to red states. And what's interesting now that the pandemic is technically over and most lockdowns are gone, that out-migration of people, money, and business is continuing. It's not slowing down. Last year, all three states that border the Pacific Ocean lost population: Washington, Oregon, California. What's happening is a reversal. At the end of the Second World War, there was this great migration of people from places like Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, the southeastern United States to California, Pacific Northwest, the promised land, with all that growth and all that business. You're seeing a reversal of that migration, albeit on a smaller scale, take place now. It's become, the Pacific Coast has become a very, very difficult place to do business. Pacific Coast municipalities and states have been at war with landlords in terms of property rights for quite some time now. And so people, money, and business are leaving. They're going to places like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Idaho, Nevada, and so they're going to places that provide a more friendly environment from a business and investment standpoint. And it's very difficult to be the Lone Ranger in a market like that, selecting and managing your own property. And that's where DST can provide an ideal migration vehicle for investors who want to leave a hostile regulatory and business environment and go someplace more friendly, where their property rights are respected and local governments aren't at war with landlords. So change is the watchword of the day. Now, probably going forward from an economic standpoint. So it's incumbent on investors to understand the ramifications of that and to direct their investments accordingly. Yeah.
Well, change is inevitable, right?
Yeah, it's just sometimes hell of a lot more than other times. And I think we're going to see a lot of change in the near future.
Definitely. Well, we're going to take a break. David Moore, Equity Advantage, Robert Smith, Peregrine Private Capital, but we will be right back. Thank you.